Hello everybody, Manchester United have finally signed, I say finally, it's only been like a week, that's not really the biggest saga in the world, is it? Alexis Sanchez. We have a new number 7 at Manchester United. Alexis Sanchez, an absolutely fantastic signing, a player that knows the league well, and a player that in the last week has boiled so much piss that I absolutely love it. Now, the narrative should be that Manchester United have added a world-class player to our attack, a player that, and an area that Mourinho was looking for in the summer and wasn't able to get over the line in Perisic and in Griezmann. Similar sort of age to those, definitely a ready-made player and certainly not one for the future. Scored 30 goals in all competitions for Arsenal last season. No mean feat, definitely at the top of his game. Cheaper than Griezmann. And we're going to get into this in a minute because the reason that I'm making this video is to address a lot of the points that everyone's talking about. The narrative is not that Manchester United have added a genuine world-class talent. The narrative is that Manchester United are breaking football, paying through the nose and blowing everybody else out the water, and it's not fair on good little homegrown clubs like Manchester City who are trying to do things the right way. You know what I mean? They're bringing through all these homegrown players. They're not spending money, and they've got this big moral stance now because everyone's dying to suck Pep off that thinks that he's this great manager, and they're just buying the bullshit that Manchester City are feeding them, essentially. So, the narrative is, as I said, that United are paying through the nose. And everyone's just completely bought it. Now, one of the major points, there's 3 points that I'm going to address. The first major point is that City wouldn't break their wage structure to bring him in, and it would mean he's earning significantly more than the likes of Kevin De Bruyne. The second point is that the overall transfer cost was just too astronomical for City to do and not interested. And the third one is that he's choosing money over trophies. I'm going to completely fucking obliterate all 3 of them myths, so stick with me and let's get stuck straight into these then. So the first point that I want to address then is about City's moral reasoning, paying players what they're worth and this, that and the other, and like, how can you pay him more than Kevin De Bruyne because he's the greatest player that's ever walked the face of the earth, isn't he, at the moment, despite the fact that he's got the same amount of assists in 10 less games than Paul Pogba, or in 10 more games than Paul Pogba. So, wages. You would think the way the likes of Guillem Balaguer and some of the other Manchester City favouring reporters have been talking is that Manchester City's squad is paid based on their importance to the football team. We would all like to think that in an ideal world, that's how the pay goes down. Sometimes you get players on a free transfer, you end up paying them more. Some players have been there longer, they end up getting paid more for that. And younger players sometimes get paid a little bit less. But I didn't make the rules. Guillem Balaguer did. So let's look at them and let's completely obliterate them. So, according to Total Sport Tech, Manchester City's wages are as follows. Now, Yaya Toure is earning 220 grand a week. Now, he has signed a new contract before you all start typing, and his new contract doesn't come into play until summer 2018. It's an extension. It's not a brand new contract. And his extension is going to be a pay cut, but at the moment, he's on 220 grand a week, despite the fact that he started exactly 0 Premier League games over the likes of Fernando, who's having an admittedly fantastic season, playing every week for them. He's on 100 grand a week. Then you've got Raheem Sterling, Sane, Jesus, players that you would probably put all in a similar sort of bracket, very good footballers, similar sort of age, similar sort of level of ability. Raheem Sterling earns 100 grand a week, about 160 grand, 100 grand a week more than these lads. Jesus and Sane, one's on 60, one's on 70, I can't remember which way around it is. So that's bollocks, for starters. The fact that he was also paying Wilfred Boney 100 grand a week, more than Jesus and Sane are getting paid. And the fact that Claudio Bravo earns about 15% more than Ederson does, even though one's clearly the backup goalkeeper and one is the first team goalkeeper. So the fact that Aguero and other players like that are on astronomical wages, it just suggests that that's the wages that player on. I don't think City, as a club, as a board, are putting as much importance on players' wages, and I also guarantee that De Bruyne is going in and asking for a contract extension, whether they'd sign Sanchez or not after the season that he's having. I don't think that the City board is half as worried about player wages as Guillem Balaguer wants to pretend they are to fit his agenda that someone just simply didn't want to go to Manchester City. That's the first point brought up in the defence of City walking away. The other point is that it was just too much money. Final point is that it's on trophies. and we're going to get to that in a second. So Sanchez has agreed a deal with Manchester United worth 14 million. You can get a pen and paper and write all this down if you want. That works out at 269 grand a week. Just call it just short of 270 grand a week. Not the 500 that you've been seeing linked around and bandied around by everybody. 269,000 a week. A lot of money. I'd love to be on anything like that sort of cash. But it's no more than Rooney earned. It's no more than Zlatan earned prior to his deduction on his new deal. So it doesn't break any sort of structure at Manchester United. It would have been higher than any of the reported salaries at Manchester City, but what I think is important to remember is this is a player that has supposedly been in talks with Manchester City since last summer. Now, last summer they was offering a £60 million transfer fee plus to around about 250 grand a week. It wouldn't have been any less than it is now. That's for absolutely certain. So the fact that a deal which would have been a £60 million transfer fee plus, say, a 4 or 5 year contract at 250 grand a week, you're looking at in excess of 115 million or something along that for a total package of the cost of a player. That wasn't too high for Manchester City, supposedly. Wasn't really asked about paying it then. 6 months later, that's suddenly a massive issue. But Manchester City had also offered, supposedly, they wanted him to come at the end of this season, so he would be coming on a free transfer, and instead of them paying the £60 million that they would have got, that they would have paid for him last summer, they was going to be paying a £30 million fee for him as a signing-on fee. So they're saving £30 million. But it's still going to be about 88.5 million when you consider how much his wages are going to cost over the course of a contract, plus the signing-on fee. Now, he's earning 20 grand a week more at United than what City was offering. That works out at £1 million a season. You don't need to be a genius to figure out that unless United are offering him a £25 million or more signing on fee, he would have earned more money at City than he is doing at Manchester United. I'm going to repeat that for the thick. He would have been earning more money at Manchester City than he is at Manchester United. So the first person that tells you that he's come to Manchester United because City wouldn't pay the money, fucking slap them, because it's just simply not true. The maths, the contract offers and everything are out there in public domain pretty much. But it's bollocks, essentially. And that's the top and bottom of it. City was offering this willingly to a player. It wasn't a player that was on their books that they was, being forced into paying more for. They'd offered it when it was essentially a one-horse race. So why the sudden narrative of City feeling this deal was too much? I'll tell you exactly why. They're trying to save face. They lost out. They got rejected. They got binned. Like they did when they wanted Berbatov. Like they did when they wanted Robin van Persie. Plain and simple, they got rejected. United turned up and he goes, do you know what? I fancy a bit of that. Maybe he truly wanted to play for United. Now, I've seen reports suggesting he was a Manchester United fan growing up, but I can't find any evidence of those. I can only find one, which is an unnamed source when he was playing for Udinese, said he really likes Manchester United. That's not enough for me. Unless I see pictures of him wearing a United kit as a kid, then I'm not really going to be buying that. I think it's a lovely narrative to make, but I'm not presenting that as evidence of why he rejected City in favour of United. Maybe it was to play for one of the greatest coaches in the modern era under Jose Mourinho. Now, I know some of you are going to scoff at that, like, park the bus merchant, blah, blah, blah. But it's a fact. Jose Mourinho is one of the greatest coaches in the modern era. And I think one of the examples of what players think about this, not what we think about it or what the media thinks about this, is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. That's a player that's played for both. And he says Jose Mourinho lights up a room when he walks into it, Pep turns the lights off. Now, that might be just one player with one player's personal agenda and personal opinion of Pep Guardiola, but it's pretty much the only one that we've got to go off, isn't it? And I think what you've also got to remember is, if Manchester City had come in for him, as they supposedly have done, and Alexis has worked with Pep Guardiola, then I think they've probably got to give some weight to what the likes of Zlatan have said about Pep Guardiola. And I've also seen people say, why wouldn't you want to go and play for a City, like this wonderful, free-flowing attacking side? Well, I'm going to suggest something for you, actually. I'm going to say Alexis Sanchez has previously played for Pep Guardiola and Barcelona. Maybe tiki-taka doesn't suit his style of play. What sort of style of player is Alexis? Loves a press, so defensively would suit Manchester City's system perfectly. Aggressive without the ball, loves a press, that win-back possession sort of thing that they have going on as part of the tiki-taka system suits him perfectly. But him as an individual player, he likes to get his head down and run at people. When he first receives the ball in space, that's his first instinct. His first instinct isn't to look up and look for a pass, which is what was the cause of a lot of the frustrations that he had under Pep Guardiola at Barcelona. So maybe he looks at this Manchester United side, which is incomplete, I'll give you that. But maybe he looks at it and goes, you know what? The counter-attacking sort of ruthless style that Jose Mourinho's going for, quite direct, big centre forward. Maybe that's the sort of system that suits me better as a player. Maybe he wants to walk out in front of 75,000 people onto the hallowed turf of Old Trafford and play in front of more fans than anywhere else in Britain every single week. Maybe he wants that. Maybe he actually wants to sign for a club that has got prestige and pedigree. And I know City fans that are watching this foaming at the mouth don't understand that because your club hasn't got any fucking pedigree. The trophy thing. When did football end in May 2018? Yes, City are very likely to win the Premier League this season. Only a fool would say otherwise. But it isn't certain. Leagues of this size have been overhauled in a shorter period of time. Now, I don't think it's likely, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Manchester United are going to win the Premier League. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that Manchester United are going to win the Champions League. But we are still in all three competitions, as far as I'm aware, unless there is some rule blocking us. So the fact that people are coming out and saying he's only gone to Manchester United for the money, one, we've disproved that, and two, Manchester City wouldn't have a fucking football club if players hadn't gone there for money. You name me one player that has gone to Manchester City in the last 10 years that has done so for anything other than money. Fucking Robinho had to Google who you were when he signed for you because he didn't have a clue. So maybe sometimes players choose Manchester United for the prestige. Maybe they want to wear the same shirt that George Best, David Beckham, Eric Cantona and Brian Robson have worn rather than the likes of Paul Dickoff and Kevin Horlock. Know your place. It's below us. You might win the league this year, but you will never be as big as Manchester United. Alexis Sanchez, welcome to Manchester. I hope your career at Manchester United boils as much piss as the past week has. I cannot wait. Laters.